So happy to see you here. I hope that some of you might be interested in hiking. No, we're not just going to talk about that. Hopefully this can be inspiring in other ways as well. But yeah, as you see, this is my bat suit, or I should say this is what I've been living in for the past 6 months. So that's I haven't really been home to be able to change yet. I left the US in September. Oh no, on Sunday. No, on Sunday. But let's get into it. And I would like to bring you back a little bit before we jump to where we are right now. On March in 2020, I'm laying in my bed in my old room at my parents' place, and I've been awake for about 30 minutes at this time. At 7 a.m. I've decided that I will watch the news, because at 7 a.m. then I will figure out if the big life dream that I've had since 2018 will come true or not. At 7 a.m. I will figure out if Trump has decided to close the US borders due to the pandemic, or if he has let them be open. The dream that I have in mind is, as you have heard, is a big hike. And the Pacific Crest Trail, also referred to as the PCT, is a long distance trail. It goes from the southern part of the US, where it borderlines to Mexico. It crosses all of California, up to Oregon, and then finishes up Washington before reaching the final northern terminus by the Canadian border. It's 2,650 miles long, and roughly it takes 4 to 6 months depending on how quick you are. And considering I've been there for almost 6 months, I'm a fairly slow hiker. But I wake up, it hits 7 a.m. and I see the news that no, there won't be any hiking this year. The problem when you have a dream that stretches over 6 months is that you do need to do not only preparations that are physical or like mentally prepared, you need to buy the gear and so on, but you also need to solve some logistical challenges, like how do I rent out my apartment for half a year? How do I let my current employer know that I'm not going to be available for 6 months? That's a quite interesting conversation. I've had that twice now. But at that point, it's just devastating to know that all that I did for 2 years was for nothing. But in a desperate act of holding on to that dream a little bit longer, I get myself on the last plane from Europe. I land in Los Angeles 10 minutes before the flight ban takes into place. And I believe at that point that yes, I made it, I will walk. And I make it to the southern terminus, which was a huge milestone to just be there and touch it. But it very soon reveals that the US is going to be hit even harder than Europe with the pandemic, and it's not safe to be there. Not for me, not for them. So I fly back home within a week and a half. Back to my old bed, in my old room, with my parents. And I'm 31 that year. Not how I planned it to be. Fast forward 2 years later, I thought that I could let go of this dream. And I think we all have had that. Things happen, and the thing we wanted to strive for, it didn't occur, it didn't happen, it didn't play out. We were still happy with the outcome, but something just got stuck. It just felt like a thorn in the shoe. We couldn't lose it. So by the end of summer of 2021, stretching into the fall of 2021, that itch became too much. And I had to have that difficult talk with my employer that I think I need to be away for a while. And it's with great relief, joy, proudness, and a whole lot of gratitude that I'm standing here today to say that I completed my dream as of Friday, 5 days ago. So Friday oh, no, that's not that. I'd like to thank my mother. No, but it was a big moment to be able to actually pull it through. And I was on trail for 171 days. So I started hiking on April 27th and I finished on October 14th. And time is kind of difficult to okay, how much is, well, it is a long time, but can we make it more visual? And one way to make it more visual, this is me before hiking, and this is me after hiking. This is what 171 days on trail did to me. And we'll see how long I keep it. My girlfriend is so about that. But yeah, Usually I stand here, and I recognize some of your faces from previous years with IHR. I usually stand here dressed in purple, talking about the revolution of social media recruitment marketing, which I'm really excited about. Today I'm not wearing purple, and I'm not going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about something. I'm not going to talk from here. I'm going to talk from here. Meaning, I have not really understood that I'm right here, right now. I'm still wearing the clothes. I still got my bag. I haven't seen this many people for 6 months in one place. I've seen trees and mountains and birds and all that stuff. So I'm going to place a big portion of trust and have faith and be brave with you right now. Because I don't really know. The things we're going to talk about might be a little bit more emotional. So I trust that you will catch me if I fall here, and not literally fall. Although this, I bet I survived this. Some of the climbs I did, I would not. But I do believe that you want me good. So therefore I'm going to try to let you in on what it was like. The biggest question, I spent a lot of time hiking. And when you hike, you can only do so much. I spent a lot of time thinking, what will be the most common question I will get asked when I get home? 3 words, how was it? I already gotten it 3-4 times here today. So this is what I will focus on. And I talked with some other hikers, like, how will I prepare for how was it, that question, and give an honest answer? So before the Google, like the Teams meeting are starting and such, you don't have enough time to give the full answer. So my default answer from now on will be, how was it? It was long. And then we're done with it. But today we have some more time, so I will dig a little bit deeper, and we will talk about the outer hike, talking about the how, the what. And then we're going to talk a little bit more about the inner hike, which is, Chantel was referring to as, what will I bring back home from the hike? The why, the experiences. But it's important for you to see this in order to, I think, take it with you. And then we'll save questions for the end. I have an idea what to talk about, but I'm a little bit jet lagged, a little bit high on Red Bull, and a little bit emotional. So we'll see what parts we get to and what we don't. I'm excited as you. I don't really know what's gonna come, so we'll see. But this is the outline at least. First of all, if you want to hike the PCT, you need a permit. You can't just walk. And you're only allowed to apply for the permits twice. There are 4,500 permits available per year. There are roughly 20,000 people who wants to get those permits. So just to get a permit, you're very lucky. I arranged a team meeting with the entire family, standing in this virtual queue for hours. And it was my little brother, Patrick, who actually managed to get me my spot, the 27th of April. Once the permit is secure, you're going to start to plan ahead. Okay, we're going to hike from Mexico to Canada. How am I going to navigate this stretch? Luckily, we don't need to worry about maps. We only need to worry about charging our phone. Because in the phone, we have the Far Out app, which is a map app. And in there, you not only see the route, but you can see water sources, where to collect water, where you can camp, and tent sites and so on. And you can also communicate with other hikers to get information. Just because it says it's water at one place doesn't mean that there's actually water when you get there, because it might be dried out, especially in the desert when there were a lot of dry sections. The hike is divided into 5 sections, although it's 3 states, but 5 sections. One section is roughly 500-ish miles to make up the total distance of 2,650. The desert is not all sand dunes and all that, the classical desert. It's hot as that desert, though. We had a couple of days above 40 degrees, roughly like you had here in the UK, I understood, this summer. There's very little water in this stretch. And this is the first 500 miles, so this is kind of like the introduction to the PCT, when you're carrying 7 liters of water, plus food, plus gear, and all that stuff. And this is where a lot of people, they realize that, the PCT is not what Instagram told us. It's something else. You do get views that are amazing like that one, but you do have a lot of other things that are not as nice, like dirty feet, or dirty hands, not being able to wash for 7 days, and so on. So this is the honeymoon phase. You then enter the Sierras, which is like the Alps of the California. Here you have big mountains, beautiful views, you have water everywhere. And it's darn beautiful. But you pay for those views. by climbing day in and day out, up and down, and you never go down below 11,000 feet. You're always very high. And unfortunately, high altitude sickness, when the brain or the lungs are affected by the altitude, and if you don't treat it, you can actually pass away with it. And there was actually a fatal accident on the PCT this year where a 23-year-old girl or woman passed away. She was about 4 weeks ahead of me, hiking a part of the Sierras that was too high, and she didn't take care of, like she did, the people she hiked with, it didn't work out. So there are risks involved. It's not just fun and joy. It's not Instagram all the time. After the Sierras, you enter Northern California. This is where the hiker blues kind of kicks in, where you've been on trail for maybe 70, 80, 100 days, so you know the drill. But now you don't have the excitement of the honeymoon, you don't have the beauty of Sierras, now you just have California. We've not even left the state, and I've been on trail for over almost 3 months, and the excitement dies down. And a lot of people get off in Northern California because it's not fun anymore. If you do manage to go through Northern California, you reach Oregon. And Oregon is flat compared to everything else. So there you're able to do some miles, you're able to move, and you're actually done with the first state. Oregon is a beautiful place. And then finally you reach Washington with beautiful mountains. You know, you need to start climbing again, but you get beautiful views, and you're so close to being done. That's the sections of the PCT. Once you figure out the trail, you need to figure out the gear you're going to carry. And there are tons of YouTube videos, thousands and thousands of hours of YouTube content or blogs that you can read to figure out what you need. Trust me, I've seen most of them. And you figure out what works for you. But the common theme is less is more, because you need to carry everything. So you do not need a lot. Everything that I carried fit into this backpack easily, because I had to carry food and water on top of it. Right now it's a pillow in here. I'm not that strong, so this is just for show. And the most important gear of all, the shoes. And most hikers hike with like trail runners, simply because they are light, they dry quick, but they do break down. So you need to switch them out. I went through 7 pairs through this hike. Another important thing to figure out is water, where to get it. And these are 3 different types of water sources. You have water caches, meaning people are putting out water because there are so big stretches between the natural water sources that you can't make it through. So people go out of their own, put water on the trail for the hikers, and we get it. This is called, these people are called trail angels. And without them, it would be darn much tougher, and they are the silver lining of the PCT. And it's a cool experience how complete strangers that I might never even see go out of their way to help me. So you have water caches, you have streams and rivers and creeks. These are the best ones. They have usually cold water that is fresh. And then you have these ones, the ponds, full of frogs, full of dirt, full of everything you don't want to drink. But sometimes you have to do it. And you filter all the water to prevent you becoming sick. But sometimes that is not enough, so you need to treat the water or boil the water. But luckily I didn't get sick, knock on wood. But these are the water sources that you get water from. And then, of course, we need the food, the fuel to move us forward. And here the common theme would be more is more. Because the more food you eat, the more you can hike. But then it's all a balance between what to carry and what not to carry. So the common thing that you go for here is the more calorie, the better. The only thing I've been looking for 6 months when I went into a grocery store is amount of calorie per ounce or per gram. And that's the only thing that matters. It will be interesting to come back here with that mindset and not walking all day. Mostly you carry about 5 days worth of food at a time, and with some water, with the gear, for me it ended up being around 35 pounds, around 15 kilos or something like that, carrying when I'm leaving a town where I've been resupplying. Because the food, you can either buy them in town or you send a box of food to a town that you will pass. If you're lucky, the town is nearby, so you can actually walk from the trail to the town. But most of the time you come to a road crossing and you hitch and you ride for 2 hours to a town, and there you have the food, and then you hitch back and then you keep on walking. But by doing that, the people that pick you up are the most interesting and the most beautiful souls that I've met. It's really incredible how people help each other. But that's the food. And then we have some fears. And yeah, controllable or uncontrollable, no, none of these are controllable, but I'm just assuming that right now to make it easier for myself. Controllable meaning bears, for example, or mountain lions or rattlesnakes. You can do things, you can make decisions to prevent them or at least lower the risk of them happening. The bear will not go into your food if you hang it high up in a tree, for example, just to paint your picture. If you don't eat food in your tent, the risk of it coming to you at night into your tent is a lot lower. So don't eat in the tent, for example. I've seen, I think, 10 or 11 bears on trail. None of them approached me. All of them ran away sooner or later. So bears are not scary, but you're not that cocky when they come approaching you. But they do run away eventually. These ones I was not prepared for. These are called dog poodle bush. And if you touch them, they create a rash. It's so bad that you might need to go to the hospital. It's really, really itchy. And I'm from Sweden. We do have bears in Sweden, but we don't have plants that won't try to kill you. But again, if you're careful where you put your steps, where you put your trekking poles, what you touch and don't touch, you should be fine as well with that. So you can control these. What you can't control, and what I'm generally afraid of, are wildfires. I've been in regions now where it's been burning on the other side of the valley pretty badly, and it's not a nice experience to hike here when it's 2 days to next town and there's nothing really you can do. You can only hope that the wind doesn't switch and go your way. But I'm not trying to sound dramatic. We do this all day. We go into the car, we put on the seatbelt and we drive, but we have no control what the other cars are going to do. So we all take risks. This is nothing different. So this should not prevent you from trying to strive for your dream. But you need to be careful and read weather reports if it's very dry or if there's no rain and so on. Okay, now I feel like you have a good understanding of what the PCT is like in a nutshell. And we're going to go a little bit more in on the inner hike, I'd say. And first of all, I'm not going to be cliche, but I do need to mention my girlfriend in this. Because without her, I don't think I would be able to stand here and talk about that I made it. She really made a difference. During injuries, because when you're off for 6 months, or off hiking, you're doomed to be injured. My knees did not approve of hiking every day for that long. My ankles did not. Underneath my feet did not. And when I was forced to stay off trail for more days than I had calculated or anticipated, she was there 9 hours ahead of me. And with low cell service, that means that me calling her around 6 p.m. in the evening, meaning 3 a.m. for her, and she's always there, picking up and cheering me on. So I'm not going to bore you with all that, but yeah, I do believe that when you go after something bigger than you, like a big dream, it's important to have a good support function or a good support system back home. Even though they are not with you on your quest for whatever you're looking for, it's good to have, you have people back home that supports you on this. It's also good to have people around you that support you, that are actually doing it themselves. And these lovely odd group of people are amazing individuals, and they're part of my tramily, a family on trail, a tramily. These are the people that I spent the vast majority of hiking with. This guy, his name is Bubs or Bubbles, because we all have trail names. It's too difficult to remember the real name. Bubs and I, we hiked together since day 4. And we were actually able to, we didn't hike all the time together, but we were able to reach Canada, or as close as we got together, which was a really cool experience. Now, we do look like a bit of like an odd group of people, and we didn't really have much in common except for the passion of hiking the PCT. And when you're stuck with somebody you didn't really choose, you're kind of put in a situation with people that you don't really select yourself. You do find ways to create these bonds because you go through hardships together, you go through struggles together, and so on. One thing that made this group really great was the focus of never talking about the obstacle ahead of us. We always talked about the obstacles we overcame. We were not fear-doubting the future, but we were celebrating the wins that we had. We knew what were facing us, but we were not putting energy into, today we're going to climb 5,000 feet up this pass. We knew what we were going to do. We're going to spend 8 hours walking uphill. It's not fun. It's just as fun as you like it to be. But once we reached that pass, then we celebrated how we did it. And we talked about how hard it was, how scared we were before doing it, but we didn't really put the energy there. And I believe that that's something that I will bring home, to really focus not on the obstacle ahead, but to celebrate the thing we overcome. That attitude is, I believe, why we managed to do so well. Normally the success rate when you hike the PCT is somewhere between 15 to 25%. So every 15 to 25% of all the people actually go all the way. In our group, 80% made it all the way. And I do believe that that is the key single factor, that none of us we didn't really have a bad time. We had a good time even through the hardships. And if I'm going to translate that into this real world, I do think the team you're working with, if you're all focused on the good stuff and you actually enjoy where you're at, you're going to be a really good team. But yeah, it's difficult to imagine that I don't know if I'll ever see these people again. It's really tricky it was hard to say goodbye. But it was a see you later, because that's the positive of it. And if it doesn't hurt, was it ever worth it, right? So, but I owe them a lot to be here. The old saying that if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together, has never meant so much to me as during this time. Before I set out, I did some mental preparations for this, because even though I have a big reason why I want to hike this, I do know that I really want to hike this. When you're having lunch in a place like this, you can't see jack anything. And it's cold, it's rainy, everything is wet, and you're eating the same food for the 5th time in a row. It's not lovely. This is not Instagram. This is not how they sold me the trip. In order to defend the why I'm here, why am I going through this every day, I read a book that told me to put down everything that I could think of that replied to this. I am through hiking the PCT because, and then you list everything that you can come up with. When you've done that, you go through the next bullet points, whereas when I have successfully through hiked the PCT, I will. And then you list all that, and that's a good list. That's a warm list. And the final one, if I give up on the PCT, I will. And you list everything there. When you've done this exercise, I strongly suggest to doing this, give it a solid hour to go through this. When you've done this, you have your armor to defend yourself against these moments when everything is cold and you can't use the lighter because the thumb doesn't want to do what it's supposed to do because it's too cold. This is something I'm gonna take home with Sandra, because I bet, even though I'm so in love right now, I'm gonna be tired after a while. And she's gonna be even more tired with me. But putting down bullet points, okay, I'm together with her because, when we're successful, I don't really know what that, but you translate in, see, I'm kind of winging this as we go. Or I'm part of the team at work. I am here because of this. When I've succeeded with the tasks ahead at work, I will feel like this. If I quit my work, I'll feel like this. And I think that's how we armor, not also ourselves, but also maybe our teams. So this is something I'm definitely bringing home for things that I really do want to do right now, but I'm aware that enthusiasm and interest might go down over time. Your purpose doesn't need to make sense to anyone else but you. I'm not trying to say that I came up with this. You already heard all this before, but maybe I can add a different touch to it. And what I mean by this, I heard a story in a podcast, and there was a father who told the story that he went to see his kid at school, and he came to school, and his son, he was digging in the sandbox, and they were digging a hole. And the father walks up to the kid and he says, well, hey son, what are you doing? And all of the kids, they look at him and they say, we dig a hole! And very enthusiastic. And the father says, well, I can see you're digging a hole, but why are you digging a hole? Let me refrain, why are you digging the hole? And they're digging there, and they're digging, and they look at him and say, they look at each other, they don't really get the question, but then one kid replies, why? To make it bigger! And they keep on digging. Why do you hike north after 100 days and you're still hiking north? Why? To go further north. The purpose doesn't need to make sense to anyone else but you. And that's saved me from insanity a couple of times. When you question, why the heck do I do this? Why do I go through this? So purpose, it doesn't need to make sense to you. It doesn't need to anyone else, but only to you. When things don't go our way, like when my knees were shattered in Mammoth in the middle of the Sierras, and I had to stay behind 4 to 5 days, and my family had to move on, and everything, my little universe on trail disappeared, and I was by myself. And I talked to Sandra, and she encouraged me, but we hang up, and I'm by myself again. At that moment, it's not fun. But thanks to I had to stay 4 to 5 days in Mammoth against my will. If I could have chosen, I would have moved on, but I couldn't choose. I couldn't move. Thanks to that, I was able 2 months later to reach the northern part of Washington that was on fire at this moment. But I reached it just when the fires were dying out, which made it possible via reroutes and car rides that I was able to touch the monument. There were hundreds of hikers that reached the same spot 10 days before me that had to go home at that time because it was too much fire and they couldn't touch the monument. They didn't get that closure or whatever they were looking for. But thanks to my shattered knees 2 months earlier when I was crying in Mammoth, I was able to go there. So you are, or I should say, I am exactly where I want to be. When it sucks to be where I am right now, that's only because I don't see the bigger picture. I only see the little word, what I do think I know. But I don't know what I don't know, right? And with that attitude, I think it's much easier to tackle the obstacles that are about to face us. Because, I mean, the only thing, there's so little we know. But finding comfort, and I understand this is a bit spiritual, it's a bit fluffy, it's a bit, but we are in HR, right? So, I mean, no, jokes aside, I do think if we just let go of the control a little bit, things will be just much more comfortable to breathe a little bit, to rely on that, well, I'll figure this out, and good things will happen, even though they are really bad at that specific moment. 2,650 miles, just another Tuesday. Yeah. And I understand that 2,600 might sound to some of you like a big hike. It is a long time, but you shouldn't actually think like that. To me, everyone here, all of you, can do this, what I did. You just need to want it enough, and that's it. And there are some logistical that needs to be sorted and all that stuff. But this is not rocket science. You take one step, and you do that enough, you get there. It's not impossible. You get there. I felt like this before I set out on trail. I had a lot of people asking me, like, oh, aren't you afraid? It's so long. What if this and that? No, I was not afraid. And it's not because I'm brave. I'm not braver than anyone here. I'm not better hiker than any one of you. I had spent 4 years researching, talking with, and consuming content. I've been in a situation where everyone says, this is great, everyone can do this. I read about it all and over, so I create my universe. I fool myself that this is not a big thing. Anyone can hike 2,650 miles. So I think me taking home from this will be if I want to do something, whatever that might be, as long as I put myself in situations where other people are talking about doing the same thing or have already done it, if I'm just sitting there in that comfort zone enough, eventually I'll just feel like that's just another Tuesday. It's nothing more special than that. And in the hiking bubble, we never felt extraordinary that we were hiking for so long. Hiking 50 miles a day, I did that once. It was nothing special. It was just another Tuesday. Although Wednesday was painful after those 50 miles. And I had a routine. I don't know if it's visible, but the focus on this image is here, in the bottom middle. A morning routine, because I listened to a podcast where one of my role models said that you can affect how you feel every morning. And the mornings were important because that should affect the rest of your day. And I want to have good days, or I want to have more good days than bad days. So every morning, the first 30 minutes I was hiking, I felt, how does the body feel like? Does it hurt? Where does it hurt? Is it bad hurt? Where is the pain? After those 30 minutes, I draw a smiley face on the trail. And then I smiled. For 1 minute straight, I just smiled. Again, didn't matter if it rained or not, I just smiled. It looked ridiculous for the ones facing me. They were like, what is he smiling? But I just smiled, genuinely smiled. To make, or to trick, or to just restart my brain in a good way. And I think this is something I'll bring home. If I do it with a toothbrush in the morning on the mirror, or however, but I'm gonna keep doing this because this works really well for me. To smile for 1 minute and think of the things that I'm grateful for. And even though it was hurting in the left foot, I was really happy that it didn't hurt in the right foot at that time, because that meant I could put more weight on this leg than this leg. There's always good things around, even though you just need to look a little bit for them. And smile for 30 minutes, for 1 minute. I removed a slide that I didn't think I was going to take, but it kind of fits into this. So you don't get any imagery to this, you just get the story. We talked about fears. And I had read about bears, I had read about wildfires, about dangerous river crossings. A big reason why casualties are occurring on the PCTs, people are drowning because they fell into a river that is too strong and their backpacks get caught underneath a tree and they can't get out. I did not tell my mother that before I left. But it does happen. So I had prepared and made preparations to solve those kind of obstacles. One fear that by far was the most scariest of them all was up here. And that is when you dream of something so big and all of a sudden you feel a twitch that wasn't there 2 steps ago in your ankle. And you feel it again and again. After 5 minutes, it's still there. Is this a game stopper? 200 miles in, I was on day 14 and I felt something like underneath the foot. And I Googled, because I had service. And when you Google pains, you have everything that you don't want to have. And in my mind, I will be off hiking, I will be going home from trail within less than 5 days. This is not going to work. How can it heal when I'm constantly pushing through the same motion that caused the pain from the beginning? So the pain of, or the fear, it's not necessarily the pain itself, but the fear of, is this a showstopper? That was the worst and the most scary part of the entire trail. And I had not prepared for that. So if you set out to do something like this, when it's that important to you, is this a game stopper? That is the most scariest thing of them all. Anyhow, okay, yeah, side note. So as you understand, it's not the physical items that makes it possible for people to hike for 6 months. You do not need all the fancy gadgets. You don't need a lot of things. But what do need you to get there, I would say, is belonging. There are people either back home or people on trail and people on trail where you feel connected with, that supports you and that they have your back and they make you feel like you belong there. They are the reason to push forward. They are the reason that makes it. And then also to have a purpose what is it that you want to strive. And in my case, it was very, very obvious. It was a pile of sticks by the border. And to go there, so it's not the gadgets, it's purpose and belonging. That's something that I did not believe in before. I did not believe that I needed belonging. I thought I could make stuff by myself. Purpose I kind of got, but belonging is very new. So one of my biggest changes that will happen now is before I lived for the big moments, and they are nice, they're like the big dreams, but having small things happen frequently, going to that cafe, which I never did, or seeing my friends just on a Wednesday evening because, which I didn't do. But all those stuff are actually more important than the freaking big dream. The happiest moments I had on trail was sitting at a picnic table, eating whipped cream out of a tube. It was not climbing the tallest mountain in the lower 48 states. It was not the views of the beautiful Sierras. And it wasn't touching that thing either. It was being with them. That was the most happiest moments for me on trail. Life on trail is, here's another side note, by the way, because I do think we have a little bit more time. When you're hiking the trail for such a long time, and you're spending time with people, translate this to your reality, okay? Don't think it as the trail, but I'm using the trail as a metaphor. So when you're hiking the trail is the entire thing, the reality that this is life. And you start through the desert, where you're like a kid or like a toddler. You're depending on a lot of other people. You want to have the connection with other people. You can't really live without them. And then you reach the different new sections and you kind of be more and more independent till eventually you reach Washington, where you're happy about it. Most experiences are behind you. You have not so much ahead. And eventually you end the hike, or you kind of like, you die in trail life because you're not going to be on trail anymore. With that perspective, the itch in the foot that becomes a fear that is this a game stopper, it's not just a game stopper, it's a near-death experience, because you will lose everything if that develops and you don't take care of it. Those situations creates reflections of what is truly important for me on trail. What do I want to do? Is it to climb that mountain? If I only have one more week, what do I want to do? Is it to hang out more with the family? Is it to hike further ahead? You start to take active decisions. And I think in life, a lot of people, me including, are just making passive decisions. We just roll along. We hike like we always do, because we always done it. Do I want to do this or that? I don't really. I do what I always done. But when you are in a car accident and you make it through without anything, like no injuries, then you have a realization, or someone near and dear something bad occurs to them. Then we get a realization all of a sudden, oh, life is short. I put down in my schedule right now that every 6 months I will have a near-death experience, or I will sit down and make active decisions. Is this the direction that I want to head? Where am I heading? And probably it is. I will probably not change much, but at least I will be aware of where I'm going. And it will not be passive decisions. So, I reached where I needed to go, and after that, I did hike a little bit more that I missed. This is in Washington, by the northern terminus. 2 weeks later, I reached a part in the desert that I had skipped because of bad water that got people sick, even though we filtered it, and I finished that section up. This was Friday afternoon, so Saturday morning for you guys. And I'm back at the question, so now what? What do I do now? And part of me is still there, part of me is here. I have about a week and a half before I join the purple team again, which I'm really excited about, but it will feel different. And I don't really know, and to be completely honest, I'm a bit afraid, or I'm terrified of what it will be like to come back home now. Not because I'm not hiking, because I was pretty tired of walking the last couple of weeks. But I'm coming home now, and the big balloon of that was called PCT with all the dreams, the thing I didn't know, I popped it. It's empty here. Do I need to fill it again? What should I fill it with in that case? I don't really know. But backing to the previous slides, I do know that I have belonging in the reality as well, both professionally and privately. And I do believe I have a new purpose to move forward that is not the PCT. Someone asked me, would you do it again? And my answer will be, if I have to, in order to reach the conclusions that I made or to settle the way I've settled, then yes. If it's only to see the views, no, I will not do this again. It was much more painful than I anticipated. But at the same time, it meant more than I ever could believe that it would. So, if you want to read the full story, I kept a diary on Instagram. My name is thru-hike on Instagram. If you like to learn some more stuff, I'll share a bunch of these on LinkedIn. Please add me there. It's not only hiking stuff. Then it will be some social media recruitment marketing as well. Thank you so much for giving me the time and attention. This has been a therapy session for me, I think. I hope you could kind of follow the red thread throughout the thing.
Absolutely
Thank you so
incredible.
much. Thank you. Yeah.
An amazing achievement. Well done.
Thank you.
Awesome. We have time for one question if there's anything the audience would like to ask Richard. If not, okay. Richard, I had one question for you. You have 3 minutes, so this is tough. How did you get the buy-in from your employer to go out for 6 months? Because I think everybody would love to do something like this, but we need the time.
Okay. I think... Okay, I need to circle this a little bit.
Yeah.
On trail, I met a lot of people that were not happy with where they were working. They quit. They stopped working for their current employer. There were very few of us that actually did get time off and have a place to come back home to. If you give more than a lot of people were talking, okay, what can I do, the minimal I can do for the maximum reward? Like, what is the bare minimum to just stay me floating and keep me off the boss radar? That was a lot of discussion going on. How little can I do at the work in order to so I can do a lot of other stuff? And with that mentality, I don't think you will get this. I don't think you need to invest in them, and they hopefully will invest in you. Because my loyalty now is through the roof, and we have high roof here, high ceiling. I am purple, and I'm darn happy about it. I do not take it for granted that I was let off for 6 months. And I told them that this will be, the investment they made in me will be one of the most successful investments that they will ever make. I will make it up to them because they believed in me, and this was only good for me. So just be straight and honest with them why this is important to you. And if something isn't as important to you, so you can really be blunt about it, then it's not worth it. But this is not a good answer. I feel like it's
I think it is. I think it is, and I think probably what's important there is that open and honest communication and the work and the trust that you built beforehand. It sounds like you had that really solid relationship with them, and that's probably gone a long way because they've trusted you and you've trusted them. So no, I think that was a good answer.
And also, on trail, you have to be honest with yourself and the group you're hiking with. If something hurts, you tell them so they know what's going on. You're not kind of be like, well, I kind of know. And I think that works with your employer as well. If you just straight with them, this is what I want to do. I told them 6 months before. I'm not sure if I was still on the test period or if I was actually full employed, but they knew that I wanted to get off 6 months later, and they accepted that. So know your value. If it's important enough and they don't support you, you go anyway. Because when you come back, someone will see your true worth, and then you'll be more happy there.
I love that, and I think it tells that your values aligned with their values as well, which goes to show that they're hiring the right people, and that kind of goes both ways. Yeah. We are out of time. Richard, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Honestly, a round of applause. That was awesome.